Life can't be all that bad if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. It can't be. Like, you had all of those years, decades, frankly, where you were looking for that long-term answer at the quarterback position to never find it. You know, the days of Len Dawson were long since come and gone. All those years of great regular seasons and piss-poor, pathetic playoff performances leading to disappointing early season or early playoff exits. You had that happen throughout your history, time after time after time over the past several decades. But yet and still, you get to 2019 and you know that you've got that dude. You've got the reigning league MVP at the time in Patrick Mahomes. You've got the future Hall of Fame coach in Andy Reid. Like, the needle is certainly pointing upward, and you were about this close away, perhaps a Dee Ford offsides penalty away, for making the Super Bowl in the previous year. So you went into 2019 with a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, a lot of expectation, and at the end of the day, within the ups and downs of that season, you found a way to get it done. Your Chiefs were the Super Bowl champions for the first time in 50 years. It was a long time coming, but I'm sure it feels like it was somewhat worth the wait. Because you especially knew that not only was this team positioned to win that championship, but potentially a couple of more in this window that you have in the next several years. And when you looked at this Kansas City Chiefs team heading into 2020, they seemed to be a team more well-positioned compared to many others to potentially repeat as Super Bowl champions, even though we know no two seasons are ever exactly the same. Although we know just how difficult it can be to go back and meet those high expectations and get all the way back and win it. It doesn't happen often, and there's a reason for it. And yet you look at this Chiefs team and you felt pretty good that they had a chance to do so, and they certainly did. And they gave you no reason to believe that they couldn't during the regular season, where they finished 14-2, and really they were 14-1 heading into the last week, but they rested everybody against the Chargers. So, this could have been a potentially 15-1 team, somewhat reminiscent maybe of those 2011 Packers that the year after winning the Super Bowl, they came out, Aaron Rodgers was the league MVP. They went 15-1 and then had the disappointing playoff loss in the divisional round at Lambeau against the Giants. You could say maybe that should have been a warning sign. There were certainly some similarities there. But when you look at this team, like in that divisional round game against Cleveland matched up well against them. Cleveland was going to be a tough out no matter what. But once Mahomes went down with the concussion in the third quarter, you're looking at this and you're saying, uh-oh, the champions could get dethroned. The Browns might be advancing to the AFC Championship game. But a championship team shows their championship medal and finds a way to make just one more play, that big scramble on 3rd and forever by Chad Henne, and then the decision to go for it on 4th down that ultimately sealed the deal. You're looking at this team and saying, okay, this is an obstacle, and they found a way to overcome it. Like, this team is dangerous. And they certainly seemed to find their rhythm in that AFC Championship game against the Bills. They put up 38 points on Buffalo. And you look at them and you say, okay, they're the defending champs. They've made it back to the Super Bowl. But let's be real. That Eric Fisher injury hurt them quite a bit. It certainly did. When you pair that with the opting out due to COVID concerns before the season started for Duvernay Tardif, you're talking about multiple starters on that offensive line being out, and you worry at some point in time if those chickens are going to come home to roost. Especially when you're playing the Super Bowl against a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who could generate some type of pressure with their front seven and specifically even their front four. And then you got to take on Tom Brady in the freaking Super Bowl, and you got to take on Tampa Bay in their own home stadium. Like, yeah, there were things and reasons for concern, and I went against my better instincts and showed faith in the Chiefs as the defending champions and picked them to win. And I'm sorry, Chiefs fans, I put the Jeff jinx on you one time apparently, because your offense struggled mightily in that Super Bowl. Your defense couldn't stop a damn thing. It was just an all-around lackluster effort as the Buccaneers won 31-9. Put that in the category of I did not quite see that coming. So now, in 2 years, you're saying this kind of 3-year window with Mahomes as the dude. You have an overtime loss in New England in the AFC Championship game, a Super Bowl title, and a Super Bowl loss. Not a bad stretch, not a bad run for sure. But you look at it and you say, okay, Is it downhill from here, or this team still poised and positioned to get back into a similar spot next year? Well, look at him offensively. You still got Mahomes. He had a monster MVP-worthy season himself. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill both had elite type of performances, elite type of seasons. This is a team that was first in the league in total yards, 6th in points scored offensively. So this is a team that could move the ball. This is a team that could still hit you quick and still put up a lot of points on the board. Defensively, this is never a unit I think you're going to look at and expect them to be elite. I mean, they were okay during the regular season. They were literally middle of the pack in the league in terms of total yards allowed per game, top 10 in the league, but only 10th in points allowed. Once you look at it and you say, okay, you're top 6 in points scored, top 10 in points allowed, like that's going to suggest a decent average margin of victory and mean that you're a pretty good team and certainly a championship contender. And the Chiefs were. They absolutely were. But maybe we should have learned something from the 2 games against the Raiders. They lost one and they barely won the other. The Raiders matched up very well against them, and maybe there were lessons that could have been learned because they certainly did not have quite the same pop that they did the year before. But this defense, again, as I mentioned, just like the offense kind of laid an egg in the Super Bowl, the defense laid an egg in the Super Bowl. They couldn't cover anybody, and they couldn't get pressure on Brady to save their fucking lives. And that is a recipe for disaster, especially when you can't protect your own quarterback. You're going to be in a bad, bad way. So now you go into this offseason, the Chiefs are over the salary cap, but they could probably do some financial wranglings, but again, this is not a team that necessarily needs a ton, but they do need something. You got notable free agents. Sammy Watkins, I would imagine, wouldn't come back. You've got other players on their offense, such as Austin Ryder, Mike Remmers. Are you going to bring those guys back on the offensive line? You're hoping maybe that you get Duvernay Tardif back into the fold inside on the offensive line in 2021. Pasagnon is a free agent, so is Breeland, so is Sorensen. So you're talking about a few different defensive starters. So the Chiefs have some potential decisions to make, and they have some work to do in order to free up some of the cap space that might be required to retain some or all of these guys. But this is still a team that you would expect, in theory, that as long as you have Andy Reid and as long as you have Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be some form of contender, some force to be reckoned with. And that certainly would seem to be the case. But it's important to note a couple of things. Look at the Steelers with Big Ben. He won 2 Super Bowls by the end of his 5th season in the league, made another one 2 years later, and he ain't been back since. Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl in that 2010 season, and they haven't been back to the Super Bowl since. That includes 4 NFC Championship game losses, including the one this year where they lost the NFC Championship game at Lambeau. There's no guarantee. There's no promises of anything. You could think that the quarterback and the head coach might be enough. They're enough in some cases, but it's not entirely enough in and of itself. And it just kind of speaks to the challenge of the fact that it's really, really hard to win a championship. It's even more difficult to try and win it in back-to-back years. It just doesn't happen very often. There are reasons why for that, especially in today's salary cap league and salary cap game. It's just, you got a lot of moving pieces from year to year. It's really, really hard to keep it up. It's impressive, frankly. We're going to talk about the disappointment of the Chiefs and getting to the Super Bowl and having a really bad performance and getting beaten pretty soundly and handily by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But damn, look at this 3-year stretch for the Chiefs. This is impressive shit. They've had 3 full years of Mahomes as a starter. And in that time, AFC Championship overtime loss on the road against New England and Brady and Belichick, Super Bowl title, Super Bowl loss. Damn, a lot of us wish we had that kind of 3-year stretch, no matter what would happen afterwards. But there's no guarantee that you get back. We could be looking at Mahomes and Reid in 5 or 6 years, and they might not get closer to this position again. They might be a team that gets in the playoffs every year and then loses in the divisional round, loses in the AFC Championship game. The point I'm getting at here is they've still got some work to do. It's possible that they could be one of those type of dynasty type of teams, and this is not the end of them, but it's not a guarantee. And I think the biggest key for them is that offensive line. You've got to get better on that offensive line. It's a position traditionally that Andy Reid puts a great value on, so I certainly would expect this team to invest multiple draft picks on that offensive line. Maybe get a day one starter out of it, but certainly some depth and some reliability and some flexibility and versatility there, because that's why the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl. You could talk about their defense laying an egg. They did. They absolutely did. But the biggest problem of all was they couldn't protect Mahomes. So he's running for his fucking life. And when you're in a situation where your offense is very dependent on the big playabilities of a Tyreek Hill, or you want to be able to make sure that Travis Kelce has time to work and get open down the field. If Mahomes is having to retreat all the time and run for his life, there's only but so much you're going to be able to do. At least you could have said if you were able to protect Patrick Mahomes, like there were opportunities there against that Bucs secondary. There were chances there. There were touchdowns to be made that they weren't able to do because Patrick Mahomes was having to do the spectacular just to make even the close incompletion. Like you look at some of the difficulty of throws for a couple of the plays that Mahomes had. Like it's incredible all-time stuff, and those were incompletions in the Super Bowl, for God's sakes. Like you've got to protect him better. Now, certainly, you could use some work on that defense. I think they need to improve their pass rush. They need an edge rusher that can go opposite Frank Clark. They could use a little more talent at corner. And I would say, too, like it would never hurt to add another speed option at the wide receiver position. But it really comes down to that offensive line. It's just like folks are going to foolishly say that the Buccaneers won that Super Bowl because of their defense. No, dumb dicks. They won that Super Bowl because they scored 31 points with their offense in 3 quarters. And the Chiefs didn't have an offensive line that could protect Patrick Mahomes. It's all about the offense now in today's NFL. And the Chiefs are kind of leading the way and kind of ahead of the curve, similar to like the Bucs. The Bucs just happen to have a pretty solid defense that played well and matched up poorly against that depleted Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. They were the better team on that day, and they absolutely deserved to win the Super Bowl. But the key to the Chiefs getting back into this position next year, you would, like I said, like to see a little bit better performance out of that defense, but you're going to ride or die with Mahomes in that offense. You got to protect him better, and that's the bottom line.